Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Samalit Hogan with the Small Business Development Center. We will be waiting just a few more minutes for everyone who registered for today's webinar on reopening your business, adapting your business, safety policies, and examples from business owners. We're just waiting for everybody to join us. We have just over 40 people registered for today's webinar. So I'm just going to give it a minute for everyone to be able to get into today's webinar, and we'll be getting started. As always, I will advise that you grab yourself a pen and paper to take notes for today. And also, if you have any questions during the presentations, please use the Q&A button that pops up at the bottom of your screen. Basically, you hover over our image and then go towards the bottom of your screen. There should be a Q&A button that pops up right next to participants. You can use that to ask a question, as well as you can go to the participants icon, click on that, and another screen pops up that says, there's a button there that says raise your hand. You can raise your hand and ask a question. Okay, somebody was just testing it, which is great. Good to see there's folks testing it. All right, I'm gonna give it another 30 seconds. I see the attendee number rising, so people are getting in, trickling in.
Sam, Dee was just trying to get in, but she's in.
Excellent, excellent. Great. Okay. Great, we have about 20, 25 people joining us today, so I'm gonna get started. So again, one more time, hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Reopening your business is the theme for this week. This is the third webinar we've hosted this week. We had a webinar on Monday regarding market research and rebranding. We also had one yesterday, which was a panel business discussion with business owners on marketing. And today we're talking about adapting your business, safety policies, and examples from business owners. All of our webinars are posted on our page, www.mspdc.org. You can go to our page and check out our webinars. We want to thank all of the partners that make these webinars possible, including SCORE, the Center for Women Enterprise, Massroth Capital Corporation, Valley Community Development, Common Capital, Franklin County CDC, and of course the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, as well as our stakeholders, the Small Business Administration, the State of Massachusetts, UMass Eisenberg School of Management. Thank you all for helping us make these webinars possible. I also want to let you know, on the screen is the contact information for all of this. There's a lot of these folks who will be speakers today, but also these are folks in our community who are able to help small businesses and advise you on a variety of topics, especially during this time that we're going through COVID-19. You may want to reach out to some of these folks for assistance, either with questions about today or questions about funding from the SBA. I'll put this screen back up again towards the end of the webinar. Lastly, I want to recognize that today we're going to have two very special speakers, business owners in our community. Dr. Vincent Warren from the Ludlow Family Dental will be joining us in a little while, as well as Norman White, who's already with us on this webinar. He's from Hero Barber and Mercantile, located in Northampton. You can see their websites right there if you want to check out their information about their businesses. Lastly, I want to remind you, tomorrow we have another webinar using Facebook to connect with customers and market your business. This has been very popular topic for folks who are looking to connect with their customers and communicate what they're doing in regards to COVID-19, and also to get their business restarted and give it a boost. We have a really great speaker, Kathleen Schwicka from Avidia Bank. She's an expert in social media and communications and marketing, and she'll be doing the webinar. It's a deep dive into Facebook, so there's going to be a lot of really great practical examples of how to use Facebook and actually create ads. So it's not just you know, a glance over or just tips. It's very practical, almost like a tutorial. So that'll be tomorrow at 1 p.m. and there's still time to register. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to our colleague here, Anita Eliasson, who will get us started with today's presentation.
Great. Thank you so much. Hang on a second. Okay. Great. So as Sam said, this is reopening business, and our timing really couldn't be better because just yesterday, Governor Baker announced the plans to reopen and exactly what was going to be going on. These are our contacts, so we'll have those again for you so you can see them. And we are funded all by, this was done by the SBA, and we thank the Cape Cod SCORE chapter for parts of this presentation. So the toolkit that they're recommending that everybody have is really to be thinking about all these different aspects of the business. It's a question of perhaps pivoting, what you need to know, to be checking in with your supply chain before reopening, what are your staffing requirements going to be. And it's really all about planning relative to staff and operations, but also to cash management. And we're thinking that the most important thing when you've done all this homework really is to communicate with the customers as to the steps you're taking to ensure their safety, and to also communicate with your employees about what you're doing to ensure their safety as well. So we just want to go over, this was just released yesterday from Governor Baker's office, and this is what it's going to look like beginning on May 18th. And so the very first phase of it, there are 4 phases. The first phase is start, is to resume some activity with severe restrictions. And they have not listed which businesses are in which category as of this moment. But anyway, this is what's going to happen. As they phase it out, there's going to be additional industries that will be going online basically and reopening, and it will keep going. What's going to happen at the end of each phase, which they're thinking is going to be about a week or so, is they're then going to go back to the statistics and see if they see any rise in the number of cases. And they're keeping themselves wide open to saying, if we get to phase 2 and it's having a negative impact on our health, then they're going to go back to phase 1 and perhaps can even go back to stay at home. So every step of the way, there is the option to go back. By the time we get to stage 4, there will be enough data that will be available that if and when we get to stage 4, we have a fairly high level of confidence that we can stay at that 4th stage, which is being fully reopened. So just so you know. And these are the safety standards for the workplace as they've been laid out by the governor. Again, this is as of an hour ago, nothing's been changed here. This social distancing is a requirement for all businesses that are opening, both for the people coming into your business and for the folks who work in your business. So there have to be indications as to how to really follow that plan. They're recommending signage, taping the floors, making announcements. And everyone has to be wearing face coverings at all time, all the employees. They're saying in some businesses that if you want your clients to wear face coverings, that you may need to think about providing those face coverings so that they can comply with your rule. But there need to be protocols in place, and there needs to be conversations with the employees as to how this is going to be rolled out. There are hygiene protocols as well. There have to be hand washing sinks that are throughout the place, basically. There should be wipes at many different locations. And some people are doing creative things like setting timers. And when a particular song goes off, everybody washes their hands. They just stop everything and they go and they wash their hands to be sure that prolonged periods of time don't go by without people remembering to do so. And that's one way potentially to do it. That could be a protocol. And then sanitizing everything that is used by multiple people. And the restroom situation is being discussed more thoroughly because that may not just be used by employees, but potentially by clients as well. And we're waiting for further guidance on that. One of our clients had the really great idea, is a restaurateur, and they provided different phones for different people. So they basically converted their phone system to one with 5 extensions so that they don't have to cross over using the phone, which now we're thinking is one of the highest forms of cross-contamination. So these are the hygiene protocols. There is on the cdc.gov, which is the Center for Disease Control, they have a list of protocols for what are considered cleansing solutions. They're not listed by brand though. They're listed by the code that they give them when they apply for their FDA license. But in absence of things that are verified, a third bleach to a gallon of water is acceptable, as is 70% alcohol, just so you have that backup. For staffing and operations, everything, all of the employees have to be provided training for the previous protocols, which are for social distancing and hygiene. And there should be a documented policy about this as well. And for those of you who are in a union shop, that has to be in writing as well, not just verbal. If employees have any of the symptoms of COVID-19, they're asked not to report to work. And if someone has symptoms while they're at work, the recommendation is that people be sent home and that the whole space be disinfected. And then when someone has left because they're ill, the question is what's going to be the return to planned work. And again, that's got to be a protocol that's set forward. And again, on the cleaning and disinfecting, they're talking about having protocols and also selecting cleansing solutions that everybody would be using. And again, if someone leaves, the whole entire place has to be disinfected if someone has left and is not feeling well. And there have to be intervals during the day that everything is disinfected, including door handles and any surfaces that are touched by multiple people. There are going to be specific safety protocols for specific businesses and best practices. It's somewhat vague. We don't know exactly what that means and which businesses they're going to really split out and have different protocols. As of this moment, there's nothing. There will be something forthcoming. So that is what came from the governor's office, and those are the protocols. So what we would like everyone to do is really think while they're on this webinar about where are you in the status of your business? Where are you between closed and completely open? Some people, if they're essential services, have remained open all this time, and then everyone is in between somewhere. We understand people have been variably impacted by this, and so the rollout's going to be different for everybody. But we're recommending that you really forecast what the cash flow is going to look like starting month 1, which we're thinking is kind of mid-May now, and then going forward. And if you click on the link, there's a 12-month cash flow statement that you could download that looks just like this. We want to think about what cash you're starting with, what you would anticipate your sales to be. The disbursements are the expenses and the ending balance. And for those of you that use QuickBooks, we think it's a really good idea to just take those bottom lines from the different categories. So that's basically starting cash. Cash in is your sales, all the revenue, that's the total revenue line. The disbursements is the total expense line. And then knowing where you're going to be at the end of each month. That balance then goes up to the next month, and then you do it all over again. When you're preparing for the cash, and we'd be happy, all of us on the call would be more than happy to help you do this. It would really be to think about looking at the financial records for 2019. We'd like to look at the first quarter of 2020 as well, primarily to get an idea of how low it could go in a way for businesses that maybe even have remained open, but had a huge dive in business. We kind of want to take a look at that. But when we create the financial projections, we think it would make sense to look at 3 different scenarios. 25% of what your 2019 sales were for the same time period. So it would be mid-May going forward. 50% of the sales from 2019, and then 75%. So as you have a month or 2 under your belt, we would like to know, are you in the lower end of that? Have people, although you're open, has it taken longer for customers to come back than perhaps anticipated? Or are people coming back fairly strong? And then once we have a sense of what percentage of 2019 sales are being achieved, we can then tweak the projections so we know it's going to happen going forward. The importance of doing this is because although we can look at the sales declining, most likely the expenses aren't going to have declined a whole lot. A lot of them are fixed expenses, such as rent and utilities and payroll. So we want to make sure that we're taking into account worst case scenario and what impact that would have against fixed expenses. So on the expense line, to think about, what you have to have, what maybe you could get by with reducing a little bit, and what are things that you perhaps can do without until there's a better feel for what's going to be happening with the customers coming back, but never to be reducing the expenses to such a degree that it's going to compromise the experience of the client. Because when customers do come back, they want a wonderful experience. They've been kind of in their houses a long time, and they just want to have a wonderful time. So we can't be looking at taking away things that will compromise the experience. But we do want to look at payroll and see if maybe some people that work a 30-hour week maybe can be put on for 20 hours, but sort of be on call if that's possible, to the degree that it's possible. And we're trying to come up with the amount of cash that you're going to need on a monthly basis for the next 3, 6, 9 months in order to survive and keep the doors open and continue doing business. So by doing that conservative projection as well as an optimistic projection, we want to know what that number is, and always be targeting that number. This is a score rule, which is interesting, and kind of a classic rule of expense management, which is if you can cut something, cut it as early as possible and with the most impact as possible. And then if you're estimating the costs of doing things, to double the estimate. So if you're thinking that when you reopen, you're going to not just be able to get away with social media, but now you're going to have to be boosting or buying ads on Facebook. If you think it's going to cost $100 a month, why not put $200 in the budget? Because there is definitely going to have to be more money put towards the marketing to let people know, not just that you are going to be offering your product and service again, but you have to be communicating all the time the ways in which you're keeping your clients safe. So we have a few clients that we've worked with who are doing an incredible job of both protecting their employees and their clients who are coming in and buying products curbside, their restaurants. But unfortunately, they're not telling the customers what they're doing, how they're disinfecting, how they're changing gloves after they hand every bag to the client. And people have commented on Facebook, I wonder what, safety protocols are in place. Well, they're doing all the right things right, but haven't necessarily communicated all of it. So it's possible it's going to take some money to really get out there with marketing, anything, perhaps flyers, perhaps putting something in the bag so people know exactly what you're doing. So just to double whatever estimate you think that you're going to be needing. And so now we're going to turn it over to Len, because it's possible in the midst of all this that we're going to have to pivot a little, either our product or service or our delivery method. And so Len's going to do this portion of it.
Okay. Anita, I just sent you a chat. I've got another version of this that may be better for the reopening process. If you
Okay,
could stop share for a second, I'll share my screen
sure.
and pull this.
Actually, guys, I think we wanted to have
Oh, that's
the
right.
business owners go on and tell us examples of how they're handling, you know, creating policies for opening their businesses, as well as, you know, what are, just give us some examples of some of the measures that you're taking in order to keep your employees and your customers safe. So I see Norman is already joining us. Norm, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. And if you could, first of all, introduce yourself, tell us about your business, and then tell us a bit about what you're doing in terms of addressing the concerns regarding COVID-19.
Sure. My name is Norman White, and me and my husband own Hero Barber and Mercantile. We opened up in 2014 as just a retail store, and later added the barbershop in 2017, remodeled because the area didn't have a barbershop. So we decided to add a barbershop. With Anita was a huge part of that. So thank you, Anita. And we have, since becoming a barbershop, have grown and grown and grown. Now we have 3 full-time barbers. So we've been hit really hard by the COVID-19. We've been shut down since May 15th or March 15th. Not being able to work, it is tough. But we also understand that it's not an industry where you can social distance. It just doesn't happen. You can't give someone a haircut from 6 feet away. So we understand why the necessity is there to shut down. As far as reopening, we are looking at things like we will be wearing gloves. All the barbers will be wearing gloves all the time when working with clients. Masks or face shields, we have not decided yet. We're kind of waiting for future guidance on that to see if the face shields qualify, because standing with a mask on all day is gonna be hot, and a face shield does give you a little bit more breathability. It's not so close to your face. We've been watching our barber supply distributors, and they are starting to bring in the COVID-19 specific supplies. So there are masks and KN95 masks and face shields available from the distributors. We will be having hand sanitizer for clients and for barbers. We will be spraying down and sanitizing chairs, stations, everything. Everything will go into Barbicide. For anyone who is in the industry, Barbicide is now offering free COVID-19 certification. It's an hour-long course that you can take online if you just Google Barbicide COVID-19 certification. And they give you a certification that you can print out and post and put it in your business to, it's person specific. So I'm having all of my barbers do it and all of my front desk staff, everyone, just to give clients kind of a extra sense of security that we are taking it seriously. We are looking at possibly putting barriers in between each barber station. We're still kind of working on solutions for that. The shower curtains is a good solution. If it's going to be something long-term, we'll see what happens there. But clear shower curtains in the short term are something that we're looking at. Obviously, washing hands several times a day. Probably after each client is probably what I'm going to say we're going to wind up doing is anytime or anytime you touch anything foreign, any of the countertops or anything, before you go back to your client, wash your hands. The one thing that's specific kind of to the barbershop industry are the neck strips versus the Barbie towels. We are switching, and these are the little things that I'm kind of looking at now. Neck strips are about 1.5 inches wide, and they go around the cape or around the client's neck to protect the cape from touching, but it's only a 1.5 inch strip. There are towels called Barbies or Wubbies that are a big, huge towel that you can fold. And when you fold it, it gives you about a 6-inch strip that you wrap around the client's neck and then fold the towel down over the top of the cape, which creates a bigger barrier and kind of more of a margin for error, so that that cape is not actually touching clients. Because if the cape touches a client, it has to go in the wash and be sanitized. So we are ordering extra supplies, capes, things of that nature, and looking actually, talking to some of the suppliers like Barber Strong about coming out with some sort of disposable cape. So we'll see what happens there, but yeah. So that's some of the things that we're doing. We're limiting client contact. Also, with goods, we're going to be putting signs up in the store that say, please, unless it's necessary, don't touch the product. Ask one of the staff to inform you about the product, and then if you want to buy it. Our retail side of the business is not huge, so we're anticipating that it should be pretty easy to do.
Great. Thank you so much, Norman, for sharing all those with you. I think one key point we can take away from your presentation, not only all of the specifics, measures that you're taking to keep yourself, your customers, your staff safe, is that this is an evolving sort of policy. It's not
Yes.
just, this is what we're doing now and this is what we'll do forever. It's as more information becomes available, as those policies will potentially evolve. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. I wanted to also show here real quick again, Norman White from Hero Barber Mercantile. That's his website. And up next will be Dr. Vincent Warren from the Ludlow Family Dental in Ludlow, Mass. I see she's joined us. Go ahead, Vincent, and go ahead and share with us what you're doing to keep yourself, your staff, and your clients safe.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Binsa Warren, and I have been practicing dentistry for 24 years. And I have been in Ludlow now for the past 6 years. So as far as dental offices in the state of Massachusetts, we are open for emergencies only. And we are postponing all the elective procedures. We are waiting for the governor to let us know about continuing on Monday. He will let us know if it is okay to start with some elective procedures. We are otherwise following, of course, CDC and OSHA and ADA guidelines. So in dentistry, we have been following universal precautions since like 1980, since AIDS epidemic. So for us, this is nothing new. However, because of the nature of the virus, now we have to worry about aerosols. So as we are reopening, we are now addressing aerosols to make sure that the safety of our patients and staff, which is paramount, is in place. I have installed special filters in my office HVAC system, which are cleaning the air. Right now, I think it's 6 air exchanges per hour. And foreseeing emergencies, we are right now eliminating aerosols if possible. Usually we see emergencies like extractions, So if we have to do it, we do it. Otherwise, we prescribe antibiotics and we reappoint for when we will be completely reopening. So we had to put one of the most critical aspects of our safety for our patients and staff, of course, is the PPE, which is challenging. I was very fortunate that I was able to obtain N95 masks, and those have to be worn in addition to a shield for any dental procedures that are associated with aerosols, which a lot of dental procedures are. Even your professional dental cleaning, if it's done with ultrasonic, does have aerosols. So we are trying to eliminate those. So the best thing to do is to eliminate them at the source, which is right where the patient's mouth is. That is with high speed evacuation. So each of my stations has have now amplified high speed suctioning system. So all the aerosols are suctioned, and whatever is not suctioned gets cleaned through the air exchange. And we are limiting the number of patients right now that are being seen. We have to, upon arrival, the patient has to let us know that they have arrived, usually from the car, and then we let them know when it's okay for them to come in. So we take their temperature, and prior to their appointment, we have implemented electronic communication with patients. So they fill a pre-screening form, which asks them about if they have had any of COVID symptoms, if any of their household members have any symptoms, if they have been traveling, etc. So that is communicated to us electronically, so we don't have to have any pens, touching pens, or then we need to worry about disinfection of those. So of course, some patients, especially elderly, it's very difficult because for them, they don't have, some of them have cell phones, but they can't text because it's a flip phone. So I have one client like that, and so we do best to accommodate them. And we are planning on, when we reopen, we will have, just like the stores are doing, we will have low aerosol times for senior citizens and anybody who's immunocompromised. Probably it will be early morning appointments when we will be doing those, so people don't have to worry about getting infection. So very challenging. It was, of course, getting all the PPE, and I have to say, Sammy gave me great guidelines for acquiring the PPP loan, which helps a lot, and I hope they change the rules as far as the 8-week in the period when we have to use it, because we're still not open. I got mine on April 17th, and I still don't have staff on payroll. So I hope that changes. I spent a lot of money on PPE, and I hope that I will be allowed to use some of them because it's for protecting my employees. The N95 masks are very expensive, and so we also have to make sure that all the employees get the training to use these masks and all this new equipment. It's very hot. I've been doing, one of the emergency procedures can be a root canal, which I was doing last week with a N95 mask and a shield on. It is hot. It's really hot. So we will have scheduled, so we have now training scheduled for my employees to have the fitting done for those masks, N95 masks, this Friday. And we will also have training how to do a seal check with every mask that you don on, and all the proper donning and doffing procedures. Those are all new terms. So when we put all this gear on, you have to put it on in a certain sequence. A lot of it is also hand sanitizing. We have to make sure that prior to gloving, we we sanitize our hands, and gloves go on actually last, and they come off first, because then you have to take everything off. So we change everything for each patient. Gloves, I mean, we've been doing that for years, but now we also have to change our gowns. And then we are wearing booties, and we're wearing a head cover. It's like a bonnet. So it's a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Binsa. And you know, we can all appreciate nobody wants a bad haircut, you know, but if you're having a root canal or some type of dentistry work done, you really want it to be done properly. And training, as you mentioned, is super important. And I love what Norm said about, you know, their evolving sort of policies and trying to do their best to limit contact and using those curtains. And then you're talking about face shields, and you're talking about gloves and having to change your clothing in between patients. I think we can all appreciate the incredible amount of effort that is going to take to continue to adhere to those policies. And so at this time, I would like to offer to the folks that are listening, we'll do like a few minutes for Q&A while we have Dr. Binsa Warren on the line, and Norm. Dr. Warren has to go very soon, so I'm going to do the Q&A for them now, and then we'll go back to Len's presentation about pivoting, and for those of you who need to change your business model, so stay tuned, stay with us. So we do have a question here. And the PPE, Binsa, remind me if I'm wrong, it says personal protection equipment, correct? That's what it stands for?
PPE. Yeah, PPE, personal protection equipment, and PPP is the loan. So it's
correct. So that's, we get confused between those two. So personal protection equipment is PPE. The PPP is something completely different. It has to do with Paycheck Protection Program and the SBA. So Dee asks, what are the approximate additional costs for all of the personal protection equipment that you spent? And I would like to hear that as well from Norm. So go ahead, you go first, Binsa.
So I had made some calculations. Of course, this is all work in progress because we might have to add more, but as of right now, I'm thinking that just it's about $30 per visit in addition, because
right.
of, yeah. That's
and how much did it cost, that air exchange program you talked about?
That was about $2,500 for
okay.
to install in the HVAC system.
Wow, great. How about you, Norm? I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. How much have you spent on PPE, personal protection equipment?
We have not ordered. Yeah, we haven't ordered anything yet. We've reached out to. I've done some rough estimates, and it's probably going to be about a $300 order that we're going to have to order in the beginning to with masks and gloves and that kind of stuff. We haven't ordered anything yet because, to be honest, I'm not expecting that my industry is going to be in the first phase of this. We're thinking we're probably 2 to 3 weeks out before we're going to be able to reopen, unfortunately. But based on what the governor said in the plan that he's put forward and how the social distancing aspect of it, you can't social distance doing hair or so.
Right. And either of you using separate entrance and exits, or people just?
I only have one, so.
You only have one, so.
Yeah.
How about you, Binsa?
We have one, and we have people wait in the car until we are ready to see them. And then they go right straight into the operatory, so they don't have to touch anything. And we also have an app that collects the payment electronically, so they don't have to stop at the front desk. Pretty much the front desk does not need to have any contact with the patient, especially not a physical contact. So we're trying to do as much as possible electronically and ahead of time, and pre-screen patients. And
wow, it's a new world. How have both of you communicated these guidelines and safety policies with your clients?
I sent out a letter to my patients last week that outlines basically what I had described, everything that we had done in order to make sure that their next dental visit will be safe, about all the filters that I have installed, the new protocols that there will be in place to screen patients prior to their appointments. So we sent that out. It was done on email, snail mail, and also text.
Great. And Norm, obviously your brick and mortar retail barbershop, so different than a dentist office. So how have you approached communicating with your customers or potential customers?
We have told clients over Facebook that we will. Obviously, there will be new guidelines. We're waiting right now to hear from the Northampton Health Department, the Board of Cosmetology and Barbering, and the governor as to what the restrictions will be, because we're expecting that the restrictions on our industry are going to be higher than they are on most industries. We're expecting to see some broad sweeping sanitation regulation changes. We do, in my shop, we do a lot more sanitation than what's required by the Board of Cosmetology and Barbering. And we're expecting that they're going to step that up a little bit with COVID-19. So we're waiting to see what the specific regulations are. I can try to predict what they're going to be, but there's some really weird regulations for barbershops. Like, you can't have a broom and dustpan out on the barbershop floor. It has to be in a closet when it's not personally in use. So there's some weird kind of regulations that you have to adhere to. So I don't want to assume anything. But there is a plan in place we do appointments at our barbershop. So we have a client database that we'll be emailing with all the new regulations, and then we'll be posting it on the door as well, and our social media.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I have a question here. One last question before I let you guys go, because this is actually for Anita, but I'd like to hear the answer from Norm and Dr. Warren as well. Anita, one of our participants works in an office with another person, and they assume they'll both be wearing masks, and they'll be about 15 feet apart or so. They have policies in place about hand washing, which you mentioned in your presentation, Anita, and sanitizing. But do they need to have the office professionally cleaned before reopening? And that's question number one. And question number two, are there any suggestions of what to purchase and when?
It's funny about the offices reopening, because there was a huge conversation. I was on a webinar yesterday about that. And many offices have been closed for more than 14 days, which seems to be that period of time that some of the virus remains active on surfaces, or even as aerosols and then as fallen. So there is no guidance about that at this point, but Norm and I were having a conversation the other day about clear shower curtains, because I was speaking to a client, and she said, you know what, I figured out clear shower curtains are just a really simple, easy, inexpensive way to separate people in an office. So in terms of what the cleaning would be done, I think it's the comfort level of the people. It's really, the guidance seems to be more around people that are having outsiders come in, and then the owner has to make the decision about how to keep the employees safe within. But again, if you go to the cdc.gov website, there are a list of disinfectants that they think are should be used by everyone going forward. And again, alcohol or a bleach water combination. But the frequency, no one's really saying much about the frequency, but this idea, even in the same office, of separating people with these clear shower curtains, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and you mentioned that website on the CDC. Would you mind putting that link on the chat if you have a moment?
Sure.
Putting that link on the chat so everybody can see it. So any suggestions from Norm or Dr. Warren as to where people can go and buy? Where have you been going to go and purchase these products? And when do you want us to purchase it so they don't run out of stock before you call them?
Well, we have professional suppliers. I mean, they have been running out of a lot of products. So Mass Dental Society also offered us like Lysol and N95 masks. And I have some more in the works from actually Ludlow, local Ludlow health department office. What do you say? Public, not public health, it's a local Ludlow health department. They've been very nice. I just got in touch with them yesterday, and they said that they will supply me with N95s because I'm seeing emergency patients. So that was awesome. Otherwise, I think you can make your own hand sanitizer. There are recipes out there. It's very tough. And like she mentioned, the bleach.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We lost your video, but we can still hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting. Okay, so
Mhm.
it's tough.
Okay.
My office was professionally cleaned. They call it a deep cleaning already a couple of times, and I ordered. Unfortunately, it's back ordered. It's called a fogger. It's actually vaporized hydrogen peroxide that you can spray in the space to pretty much sterilize the air. So we're planning to do that at least at night when we leave. And right now I Lysol everything after every patient. I only see one patient at a time. So
Okay. Thank
yeah.
you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
thank you so much, Dr. Warren, for being with us today. I know you have to go. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. How about you, Norm? Where have you been getting your supplies? And do you have any suggestions about what supplies to get?
I will tell you, my go-to is alcohol. We right now use alcohol to spray down our barber chairs because it dries almost instantly. We're going to be, I have a stockpile of alcohol at my shop because we keep it on hand all the time. We go through probably 2 big bottles of alcohol a week. We use it to pretty much sanitize everything. And we order from a barber supply place called Atlanta Barber Supply. And they're very, very good at keeping stuff in stock. So I haven't had any issues with not being able to get the product, but we are planning on going down. We have some flooring issue that we're getting fixed on Monday, and then Monday afternoon, after that's complete, we're going to go down and clean and deep clean and sanitize the entire store, just from personal comfort level. When clients do come in, we do know that everything's been sanitized and cleaned. And if that's something that, if someone's nervous about that, I would say go with your gut and err on the side of caution and clean it. So.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with you. Amy, you have another question here for our panelists, for Norm or one of the other speakers. Would you mind asking the question?
Sure. I was just thinking that, here we have these trade associations that are industry specific to help and provide assistance and support. How are they helping you in navigating the protocols and the resources on where to buy things? Because I would think that they would have a lot of support and information to share. So I'm curious, like across the board on multiple different trade associations, but yours in particular, Norm.
How is who helping me?
It's, are you affiliated with a barber trade association of barbers around the country?
I am not. It's mostly Instagram. I have tried to get into barbering's a very, very specific world, and honestly, I'm kind of a misfit in the world of barbering. there's a lot of, there's more, it's more, I used to be a stylist and then I became a barber. I definitely have to say, as far as camaraderie and as far as cooperation, stylists are much, much better at that. There's a lot of ego in barbering that you have to deal with. And that kind of really does not allow for a lot of cooperation. There are some trade associations. The problem that I have with the trade associations is they're constantly trying to sell you stuff. It's more about, how can I sell you insurance that you don't need because your business insurance already covers it. So as far as that, I will tell you the one collaboration that I have seen, and it's only because we use their barbering line in the store. Jean Paul Mitchell Systems has been amazing at sending us any and all information that they possibly can on how to navigate the situation. They're doing free education. They're doing all sorts of stuff for stylists and barbers in their downtime that are, and there's a free salon education as well that has kind of upped their game to kind of keep people interested and fresh. And so as far as techniques and that kind of stuff, there are a couple. There's free salon education, and the guy's name is Matt Beck, and John Paul Mitchell has been fantastic at that stuff. As far as an actual barbers trade association or the Board of Cosmetology and Barbering, if you go to the Board of Cosmetology and Barbering website, it refers you to your local health department.
Okay. Now I think. Thank you. You just raised a really good question, which was, it's not just the trade associations, but it's all of your vendors and suppliers that could provide ongoing support for you in navigating these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you both. Thank you, Amy, for asking your question. Thank you, Norm, for joining us today. I'm just going to flash one more time on the screen for everybody to see your contact information here, as well as Dr. Warren's. Thank you both for participating today. And then we're going to switch gears to, Norm, you're more than welcome to stay and enjoy the presentation. Up next is Len Gendron from SCORE, Western Mass SCORE. He's going to do a presentation on the business model canvas, which is a tool that is very widely used to look and analyze your business model, how it's working. And he's going to go into detail on that because it's a tool that is getting used by folks right now who have a business and are figuring out ways to change their business model to stay in business or long term. So Len, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi. Let me get this up here. Good. First of all, let me say that there are probably 50 different business models. So if you're Googling business model canvas, this is only one of those 100. This one, I think, the purpose of the business model is for you to figure out how you're going to do business, how you're going to make money at it. Quickly, the first thing we look at is who are our customers. One of the things that we're looking at here is not only their likes and their habits, but also their demographics. How old are they? Where do they live? How much money do they make? What's their education? Things like that. This bit of information becomes more obvious as we get further into the chart. But the demographics are really important. And now, especially where you're dealing with a revision of your business, maybe your customer segment has changed a little bit. We can see that restaurants are doing more carry-out business. Okay, who are the people that are using the carry-out? We need to define those. The next thing is, what are the customer's problems? How are you going to be able to satisfy their needs? You need to know what their needs are. And then what are they using right now to solve those problems if they're not using you? We have some solutions. Our solutions, let's say I'm a chiropractor. The people over here are at an age where they have back problems and back pain. Currently, they're using aspirin or opioids or shots or doctors or whatever, but I'm offering up here a chiropractic solution to this situation. Once I figured out what the customer need is and what my solution is, I have what we call a unique value proposition. Okay, basically we can assume that nothing you're selling, products or services, is worth anything until somebody needs it. Then it has value. Based on that value, how can you make money at that? What are your revenue streams? For instance, if I'm a chiropractor, maybe I can sell a t-shirt that says I go to the best chiropractor. It's not necessarily a practical revenue stream, but when we look at this box here, revenue streams, it's kind of like a brainstorming box. How many different ways could I make money if I offered this service? We saw the barber. The barber starts to selling supplies. His main product is his barber service, but you can also buy the hair creams and the solution shampoos and so forth like that, and that's a different way of making money, an additional revenue stream. Okay, then channels breaks down into two parts. How do I get the message to the client? And that's where the demographics comes in. We can see that the demographics of Facebook are slightly different from the demographics of Instagram or email or Twitter, Spotify, whatever platforms you're using. So the demographics of your customers here play into how am I going to get the message to those clients. And the second half of this is how am I going to get the product to the client? Am I going to deliver it to them? Are they coming to me? Am I going to use a distributor? How am I going to get the product to the customers? So once we have those things figured out, then we have to figure out what our goals and objectives are. The primary goal is if I look at the end of the year and I look at my business, what is the one thing that tells me on December 31 that I have got a successful business? Is it going to be $100,000 in sales? In which case it's a measurable goal, $100,000 on December 31. Okay, maybe it's the number of customers you contact. Maybe it's the number of sessions that you run. Maybe it's the poundage of the vegetables you sell. Whatever it is, whatever you choose to measure your business by at the end of the year is our number one metric. Then we're going to back that down into other metrics that are benchmarks that are going to help us get to the $100,000. So maybe the first one, in this case, you've decided to add a delivery service. So in our on our timeline, we're going to say, start the delivery service June 1. That's in effect when you're opening this new piece of your business model. Then what are some of our interim targets that are going to lead to the 100,000? That might be 15 customers or a certain sales level that you've accomplished or whatever. We generally say pick 3 or 4 key metrics and use that to benchmark your business along the way. Am I actually accomplishing what I needed to accomplish? Then we get into the cost structure. What's all this going to cost me? In this case, we're talking about added expenses here of now meeting with customers. I got to have a face mask. I've got to have some sanitizing things. Maybe I've got to restructure my office or retail space. In the case of delivery services, am I going to hire the employees myself, or am I going to use something like Uber to deliver what I do? You figure out what are the additional costs now to doing this business. And then finally, one of the most important things here is our competitive advantage. Why would I go to you instead of somebody else? Use the barber again as an example. Barbers are all over the place. Why would I go to this particular barber? What is different about it? Maybe it's the personality of the barber. Maybe it's the convenience of the hours, whatever it is that makes me feel the appeal of this particular barber. So that's kind of an overview, but how do you use this now? Now you're faced with changing your business, okay? We're looking at changes in our customers and our customer habits. I have a farming client who decided to add a takeout service or curbside service. So he put on his website an order form that includes all of his products, and it's also linked to his point of sale system. So if you go to his site and order something and it's not available, it shows out of stock, so you never get to order it. Then you pick a time for delivery. What time do you want to pick up? And it shows available times. And then you show up, they have a bag ready, and off you go. Now, he's used that as a modification of his business model. So his delivery system is slightly different than where it was before. The great thing about this is he's anticipating that this modification of his business model is going to survive the virus. And when things get back to normal, people may still prefer to shop at his place in this way, especially people who have just a little bit of time. So we're looking at your business in a new way. We're evaluating your business model to see how you can fit the model to the current situation. And then we look at the various elements that I just went through to see how you can make accommodation for the clients and make some money at it at the same time. And we're looking at modifications that are survivable when we go back to the new normal. Maybe this new way of doing business can actually pay off for you in the long run. That's a quick and dirty expression of the business model canvas. If you're interested in it, you can contact either Anita or myself, and we can get you somebody to work with you on this. Or you can just Google business model canvas, and there are a number of different companies out there that offer training and so forth to work with us. So
great. Thank you so much, Len, for that presentation. We really appreciate it. If you won't share your screen, I will pop up again the contact information for all of the folks who are involved here, who you can contact for additional help and information. Let's see here. Let's just open this up real quick. I think it was actually the beginning. Here we go. So there's Len's email, as well as Anita, myself, Dee Dice. And so coming up next, Dee is going to close up today's webinar with additional information on reopening your business. Go ahead, Dee.
Let's see. I think Anita was going to put up her slide deck, and
Yes.
I was going to start speaking about supply chains.
Excellent.
So
Sounds good. She's going to share her screen. Just give her a quick second.
okay.
I'm sure
Great.
she's putting it up as we speak.
And just so you know, I'm going to try to give examples of different businesses in everything that I talk about, so that we can have something concrete to really, you know, to think about these different concepts. For example, supply chain is often the most common way we think about it is if you make a product, then what are the components that you need to make that product? And the example I can give you, the best example I can give you is a friend of mine works at Concept 2, which is in Vermont, and they make indoor rowing equipment. And they're thinking that this is going to be the new norm, and that people are not going to be going back to the gym. So their sales tripled in indoor rowing equipment. And they had a lot of inventory left over, but because they're not an essential business, they're not working, they need extra components, and those components came from China. And so they weren't able to produce their product, even though their sales were incredibly high. they only had a certain amount of product. So in the supply chain scenario, really you should have several different suppliers for all of your components or all of your vendors. For example, I had a fruit and produce market for 25 years, and that was, you know, the first rule is always have, if you're buying geraniums, have 3 geranium suppliers, because if you have a client that wants five flats of red geraniums and your supplier doesn't have them at that moment, you need to access several other suppliers. So, so Anita, do you want to go to the supply chain, or do you want to go back to the part that Len was going to talk about? I'm not quite sure how you want to do it.
We're on the supply chain now. Did you see that?
Okay, great. And so they talked about lead times, payment terms. Certainly now a lot of suppliers are going to be much more flexible as far as payment terms, because they might be backed up too. I mean, everybody's supply chain is a little bit different. I mean, we've all heard about how farmers in Vermont are giving away milk because that's an excess, because there's an excess, because schools aren't open and events aren't happening. So maybe you can go to the next slide. So we have all heard about pivoting, about different companies basically making changes really on the fly. You know, everyone's kind of scrambling. What does my business need? What do my clients need? How am I going to make all these changes? And these are the examples of several different ways that a business can change. So the first one is targeting a different business segment. And so one of the most classic examples of that is a wholesale supplier of food. And we've heard about several of them that now their businesses aren't open. They might have been suppliers to businesses or schools, and many of them now are working retail, and so they are putting together packages of food that could be sold retail. So instantly, their whole segment of their customer has now switched from wholesale to retail. So that's one way. You know, another example might be a client that makes cards for sale in gift shops. Well, guess what? No one's going to a gift shop right now, so they can pivot to sell them online. Developing a new product line or a new product in general, that's a great pivot. One example I can give is my sister owns a factory, and they make LED lighting. And so their business was kind of stagnant until someone asked them if they could make a light box, a UV light box, to disinfect PPE, masks. And my sister was like, sure, yeah, we can make that. Absolutely. And she did all the research, and now they're producing these very heavy duty light boxes that equipment can go in there. She found a new supplier of ultraviolet light to go in there. And so she's really creating a new product that they would have never thought of before, something brand new, listening to her customers, finding a need. So altering the process to change your product or service. So I heard about a client who was a coffee supplier, and they ground coffee and sold coffee wholesale. So not only are they selling retail now and pre-bagging things, but they are also going into business to create a new product, which is a pre-made coffee in a bottle. So, and that's a local company doing that. So they're taking what they know and what they have and their familiarity in the industry, and they're changing it. They're looking at the need and changing it. And so, of course, we've all heard about businesses moving online. I mean, you know, I think we all have to get comfortable with the technology. You know, all of us have upped our game. Look at us all on Zoom here. No big deal, right? But, you know, changing your business so that your products are online, e-commerce is, you know, a very obvious change. And I have someone who is interested in helping people do that. So if after this, if anyone wants to email me at dd@valleycdc.com, I have a person who has been doing a lot of e-commerce, and they're happy to help people get started with that. And of course, the pickup and delivery service, which, you know, all the restaurants are doing. I've also heard about people buying lockers to put them outside of their business so that clients can pick up products. You know, people can put the products in there and clients can pick them up. So that's another way of pivoting your business so that you can have your hours open longer and people don't have to go inside your store. So those are a couple of different examples. And I think when you think about pivoting your business, there are many ways to do that and ideas to come up with. You know, who can you partner to create new events and new opportunities? I just connected two different people, and you might think it interesting that you could partner with possibly a previous competitor. But I'll share this example. So one of my clients owns a flower shop, and she now is having problems getting flowers from the big flower market, and she's buying a lot locally. Her goal is to buy locally. And the other day I was at a garden center where a woman grows cut flowers and has weddings, but all of her weddings have canceled. And so she told me, I'm going to have all these extra flowers left over. And so I immediately contacted the person who owns the flower shop and connected those two. So now, before they were, you could say they were competition because they both did weddings. Well, now the woman who owns the flower shop, she has a subscription business. She changed her model. So she sells flowers regularly to people that have bought subscriptions. So now she's able to buy those cut flowers from her competitor, from her previous competitor. Now they're going to join together. So that's a way that you can look at creating opportunities and partnering with different people. And also, what else can you do to generate revenue? What areas of the business you might rethink? You know, is there a product line that you have had before that maybe was a slow seller for you, or there's something you didn't think about very much, maybe even a waste product of what you make or create? And is there a possibility that people need that product now, or that product can be kind of retooled to or created a little bit differently so that it's more accessible to people? I'm not sure I had a example for that. Oh, I know. So creating online classes. One of my clients owns a printing shop where people come in and print their own products. And so now she's offering online services or online classes. So that's a different way. And modifying the customer experience to make it safer and more effective. I think we just really heard about that great from Anita and both the two business owners about, you know, what's important and all the different modifications you have to make and all the different things you have to think about. So, and I think that includes the physical accommodations also, and making your customer feel safe. So in talking about communications, I want to emphasize that it's a two-way conversation. So yes, you need to communicate with your creditors, your landlords, your utility companies, your insurance companies. But as we saw with the other with Norm, for example, that it might be in some sectors, it might be your trade association that is taking the lead, but really it also might be your suppliers. I have found that sales reps, if you buy certain products from different sales reps, a lot of them are on commission. And so they want to do everything possible to help you sell your products, feel safe with your customers. And so they're a great resource. And so that's a two-way communication. They're talking to you, they have the products, but you're saying to them, hey, what is my competitor doing? Or what is everybody else in the industry doing? Give me some great ideas. And they can say, my garden center was a perfect example. I'd say, are people buying this particular product? And they'd say, oh yeah, great. You know what they did? They displayed it with this and they packaged it kind of together and this is how they sold it. Ah, great, I'm taking that idea. So I think thinking about communications in both ways. What are your suppliers doing? Do your suppliers have other products that you never really thought of before? And so a lot of those suppliers, which we just heard with Norm, they're now carrying, and Binsa, that they're now carrying products that they never carried before. Who carried masks and shields before and face shields? So let's see. Of course, with your customers, communicating with your customers. What are they doing right now? And that means listening to them and what their pain points are and what their needs are. And certainly potential customers, and always, always, always with your employees. I've always said, your employees are in the trenches. They know, and they create your team. It's about having a team. So how are you going to reach out to these people? And I was really heartened to hear that Norm was saying that he it was Binsa who was saying that she emailed people, she texted people, Norm posted things on there. All the different communication methods, you should use all of them. So of course, social media, any other regular kind of media. I know there's a lot of advertising, newspaper advertising that people are getting together in groups and advertising. And of course, snail mail, and as always, email newsletters. So remember in your communications that it's a two-way street. You're listening to what's happening with your clients and what their pain points are, and you're actually informing them about what you're doing in your business and what's happening. So,
great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all that great information with us, Dee. That was fabulous. I'd like to welcome and invite Michelle Miller from the Center for Women Enterprise and Amy Shapiro to join us and unmute themselves and show their video. And at this point, I'd like to open it for questions and answers from everyone who's attending here today. You've been very patient. You've heard us the various presentations. You heard the presentations from the two business owners that share what they're doing. But if you have any specific questions about your own business, this is the time to ask. This is your opportunity to hear from this panel of speakers today in answering your questions. So if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A button and ask your question there, or you can raise your hand by going to the participants button and clicking on that little button that says on the right side of your screen, raise hand. And in the meantime, while I see if anyone has any questions, there is one participant here who is on the phone ending in 2814. 2814. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't. Thank you very much for asking.
Okay, no problem. I want to make sure those folks who join us over the phone have the opportunity to ask a question as well. Okay, so no questions there. So Amy, Dee, Len, and Anita, Are there any thoughts, any really important information, any highlights of what we've heard today that people should really take away with them today?
I think one of the big deals that Anita covered in her part is the cash flow. It's all about survivability until we get back to something that resembles normal. Got to keep an eye on what the cash is coming in and forecasting when you're going to run out and what you can do. It'll help you to figure out what you can do to avoid that. I think that's critical for especially new businesses.
And I would say that the part that is sometimes overwhelming is how to begin. And sometimes people just, I mean, all this information that was presented today is so useful and appropriate and sometimes overwhelming when you think of it all at once. But to break it down into small pieces and reach out to any of us to start. Because once you start the rethinking process, it'll all fall together. And if you feel overwhelmed, just stop and reach out.
And I think I'd like to add to that by saying, remember that you have a team in your business. Even if you're a solo entrepreneur, you have other people that are involved in your business. And now's a perfect time to gather them, even if it's on Zoom, and say, you know, what's going on? What are you thinking? I mean, hopefully you're doing that already, but some, like Amy said, just getting started by having the conversations is a way to go. And we're certainly all happy to help you.
Michelle, it strikes me that we have quite a few women business owners here on the webinar today, and you work for the Center of Women and Enterprise. Could you tell us a little bit about your organization and where people can get more information specifically for women-owned businesses?
Sure. Thanks so much, Samalit. We run 5 women's business centers in partnership with the Small Business Administration. So in short, what we do is we operate very similarly to SCORE and the SBDC, which I think makes us really great partners for everyone on the call. But our focus, most of what we do is by and for women. So the primary way that separates itself is we have certification options. We can talk about messaging around advertising women-owned status. We're primarily free to use. Every now and then you'll see that there's a fee associated with a workshop, although we've suspended almost all of those right now in wake of the pandemic. So I would encourage everyone just to reach out. I really like what Dee, I think you said it, about just reaching out, staying in communication. There's this amazing team of resources to help you. So if there's anything we can do, I'll put my information in the chat box, but feel free to reach out anytime.
Right. And Amy, you work with the Franklin County CDC, and I know you asked a question earlier, but can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do? Because you have a very specific industry that you help up there in Franklin County.
The Franklin County CDC is also home to the Western Mass Food Processing Center, which is a shared use commercial kitchen. So people come from all over, as well as farmers, to use our commercial kitchen to make a value added product. We also have a loan program. So it's for any industry. It's not just for food and ag. And so if people get turned down by a bank and they just need a gap financing, we're happy to talk with them about their financing needs, as well as we have an incubator in Greenfield where we have light office and manufacturing space available for people to rent, and as well as providing technical assistance and business coaching, counseling, and training. And again, as it's been stated on this webinar, there's just lots of resources that are available. And what's really nice is that all of us don't compete with each other. We're basically part of your team, and we all have connections to other resources. So if we don't know an answer, one of us knows somebody that knows something. So I just can't emphasize it enough that there's support as needed. You just have to reach out, because we don't know that you're having a problem until you reach out to us.
Right. And then for Len, where will people go to get in touch with a SCORE mentor if they wish to do so, and which are all volunteers, correct? And they're all
Correct.
over the state?
Right. We have volunteers that go from the Vermont border to the Connecticut border, and from Worcester to New York. But the easiest way to find a mentor, regardless of where you come from, is score.org. And you'll see a button there that says request a mentor. And it's our intake form. That's the easiest way to get in touch with us.
Great, awesome. And Dee, you're located in Northampton and you recently changed your name to Valley Community Development. Tell us a little bit about what you do up there.
So previous to COVID, we did one-to-one in-person consultations. And now we do them, of course, by Zoom or by phone call. And we've offered workshops, and we're like the other agencies here. I mean, we're a free service, and we're happy to take clients from any level of business. So, and I'm happy to work within this great collaborative, like Amy said, that, you know, we all are collaborative and not competitive. And so you get a lot of good, experienced information from all of us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And myself and Anita are both working with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center network, and we work in the Western Regional Office located in Springfield. We cover Hampden, Hampshire, and Franklin County. Anita, can you give us a quick overview of the services we provide?
Yeah, we too, like the others, provide one-on-one counseling. We're doing it via Zoom and the phone right now, and also putting together these webinars to provide great information to a broader audience. But we're willing to work with people at all levels, from you know, kind of pre-opening when people are just forming a concept, all the way up to established businesses and everything in between. And we can help with the operations, finance, sales, and marketing. And we're thrilled to help. And in many cases, a couple of us that you're seeing on the call share clients so that they get two different perspectives. So again, it's not about working with, you know, either one of us. You don't have to make a choice. It can be with SCORE and the CDC or whomever. So we're here to help is the message. We're here to help.
Great, thank you. And we do have a question on the Q&A that came up while we were introducing ourselves and talking about the various organizations we represent. And this is from Carol. She shares that she's a small staffing business. They place temporary hospitality workers.
Oh, wow.
They are looking to find new customers, yet also survive from being closed down for several weeks now. What resources can we suggest to help them pivot into a new space? And Carol, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Let's see if I can find you here quickly on this side, because I'd like for you to clarify, what do you mean as to pivot into a new space? Go ahead, Carol, share with us. Is that, I think I unmuted the wrong Carol. Go ahead, Carol Moore. If you don't mind, go ahead and clarifying your question. Okay. You'll have to unmute yourself, which is that little microphone, little red microphone on the bottom of your screen that has a red line crossed through it. You have to unclick that. Okay. Well, anyway, so if I was going to give you some advice, Carol, if you're looking to move into new space, I wasn't sure if you were meaning a location or actually like trying to go from being the staffing businesses specifically for hospitality workers to perhaps for nurses or, you know, other industries. Our best advice to you right now would be to really use that business models canvas tool that Len shared with everyone, because that really gets at the heart about your business, you know, how to, you know, who your customers are, what's the problem you're trying to solve, and all of that. And I'm looking here that, Carol, were you able to unmute yourself? Did you want to clarify your question? Okay. Okay. Well, just gave her a couple of chances. That's all right. If anything, you can reach out to us. I'm going to flash on the screen again one more time all of our contact information is right on the screen here. We're very happy to have the opportunity to share this information with you today. Please join us tomorrow and have a good afternoon and take care.